but wanted to have you on here because you're one of the best analysts that covers college football, and you got to go out to a lot of spring practice, right, and see this team. So not just what we saw out on the field in the spring game, which when it's first offense on second defense and first defense on a very patchwork, especially that O-line, second offense. I don't know how much we learned, but let's start on the defensive side. Dusty, I want to get your thoughts. Let's start with the defensive line. Like, where do you feel the program is at along the defensive front right now?
Well, they looked great yesterday. Can we bottle that up or on Saturday, whatever day? I think that Jonah Laulu moving inside is a good thing. Saw that on one of the early short yardage. I think he made another play in the backfield. Smaller, quicker, move him inside. He's got good length. I think his frame can hold a few more pounds. He's going to help. Isaiah Cowboy, he had a bull yesterday. He looked strong, even in camp. He just looked strong. I thought, Jordan Kelley moved around well. Okay. I think they need to continue to work to get better inside. But I do think those three guys have the ability to be on the field, be a good part of a rotation amongst others. But I think that they're solid with room for improvement. I think at the edge position, you guys have talked about it a lot, but Rondell Bothroyd, he's going to probably start. He's at least going to push for starting time. He's just a savvy vet. I did their game. I did Wake Forest, Florida State last year. He's heavy-handed. He sheds blocks, which, for being completely honest, this front struggled with last year, and they still struggle at times. Camp when I've been there, just really being able to punch, separate, shed, get off blocks, be able to be active to make plays. So he's going to help you do that. He's also gives you a pretty good little pass rush. I thought R. Mason Thomas, just his body, he looked like a completely different young man than he did a year ago. He's not perfect. He's still got a lot of learning to do, but I bet he's 20 to 25 pounds heavier than he was when he played last year. I just like what I see. He's got really good movements. He's got twitch in that first step. So I think those two guys, I'm a big Ethan Downs fan. Reggie Grimes, a big body. I'd love to see those guys continue to get better. But the key for me is guys got to do a better job getting off blocks and making plays. And I still think that is a work in progress up front. And I hope that through the summer they attack this. And I hope that with this portal, if there's an opportunity to get somebody along the front, whether that's inside or on the edge, I don't think that they're going to be afraid to try to go after and do that. So, if I'm being completely honest, Gabe, I think it's a group that needs to continue to improve and get better. And they go out there yesterday and they play as good as I've seen them all year, right? Or this camp. I think I was at 4 practices of scrimmage, and then the spring game. I thought it was the best they looked collectively. So I was optimistic by the last thing I saw, but I want to see him keep getting better because you guys know, there's no secret championship teams have great defensive fronts and guys that can disrupt, can change games. And, the only way you can do that is to get off blocks. And I think that my number one thing heading into the summer and into the fall, if we can be better as a defensive line at using our hands and separating and getting off blocks as well as our linebackers, I think we'll be in a much better place. I actually thought guys used their hands pretty well yesterday, so they just need to continue to move in that direction.
Yeah, and I think it takes time. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time. We could do a whole podcast on the defensive line, but what do you think of like the development process? Like because everyone teaches defensive line technique a little bit different. I feel like across the front and really as a whole defense, we're still playing way too high.
Yes.
I know a lot of people everyone wants a big 350-pound defensive lineman, but I constantly tell everyone it's about pad leverage and technique. I don't know that you ever played at 300 pounds at Oklahoma, and you're one of the best to ever do it. So how do you think the technique that they're teaching and everything, is it there? Are you seeing guys improve?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Coach Bates is really good. I think technically, I spent more time really watching him individually. I think he teaches really good stuff as well as pass rush. That's evident on the tape from where he came from at Clemson to now. I think pad leverage is always something you have to work on. And if you are undersized, if you don't get your pads down, it's going to be a real problem. I know it's something they work on, but it's something that everybody has to continue to get better at. But I really do. I feel like sometimes on the edge, and I'm not saying this is a direct reflection in any way of Coach Chavis. I feel like on the edge, like sometimes you can almost do too much, right? Like, let's get really good at one move, okay? And then let's have a counter, all right? If I can get really good at two things, you can be a pretty good pass rusher. But when you try to do a little bit of everything, and you don't master anything, it can be struggle. So I think just for those guys off the edge in particular, true pass rush situations, not a stunt, not a blitz, one-on-one, you're on an edge, whether you're just a chop rip speed guy, you're going to beat them blow and go, and then you've got a nice spin or you've got a hump move that you're going to counter to come back inside, whatever it may be. I feel like sometimes guys are almost trying to do too much. And again, maybe that's just them. So, and it's great. Like I'll talk to D linemen. Who you studying? What pros? Sometimes you can study way too much. And it's like, oh, I want to do what Von Miller does. And did you see what Aaron Donald did? Yeah. They're like the best to ever do it. And I'm not saying Oklahoma guys are doing this. I'm just saying in general. I think that if you can ever get to a place where you can master one really good pass rush move, and you've got a really good counter to make it tough to come back off that, that's where you hit. And then after that, you pull a potpourri and have some fun. But I haven't seen enough of that from the edge guys. I want to see more of guys mastering one thing really good, being able to counter. And I think it's going to give those guys off the edge a better chance to have success consistently getting to the queue.
I think that's a tremendous point, right? And right now, when you think about the defensive front, if it pops into your head, Dusty, but like I can't think of a guy that I am like, yeah, he's got that go-to move,
right?
And that's not normally that's not how you really want it to be. You want a guy to be like, hey, I know exactly what I'm getting, and it's because he's done it and he's been effective with it. And maybe Isaiah Coe got decent at the snatch last year, maybe, but I mean, it's not like the production was there. So I think that's a tremendous point by you. We need some guys to develop some signature moves.
Yeah. And just one though. Again,
yeah, right.
Like I feel like you can overdo it. Dwight Freeney. I'm going to go way back.
I was going to say that a minute ago.
I'm going to go way back.
Speed
a guy that was represented by the same agent as Teddy and I way back when. He's one of the best speed rushers in the history of pro football. So if you youngsters are out there, you don't know who Dwight Freeney is, go get a YouTube highlight reel and go watch him. Dwight Freeney would give you a fastball every time. He was going to get wide. He was going to get up the field. His first step was explosive and as quick as anybody's, and he was going to make that tackle kick. Half the time, he was just going to beat you with speed. But he would get those tackles because they'd be so scared of his speed rush. They'd kick out so far wide. He'd have some of his patented spin move. I mean, it was so easy. He had him beat, though, as soon as he set the pick before he even spun, because those guys are just kicking and they're trying to get out there. And as soon as he put that pick down to spin, they're already beat. And so he was so good at that one move. And it's coming. But then if you just have one counter, Gabe, the best defensive lineman you played against, I bet they had one move and you're like, damn, I'm going to have to deal with that all day. And then you finally do everything you can to deal with that, and they counter you. And you're like,
that's a change up. Yep.
What do I do now? So I would say that to any young pass rusher. And the fact that and I watch this team in pass rush, and they try a lot of different stuff. Like sometimes, man, just become an expert at one thing, be able to do that really good. And if you can have a counter off of it, you can find a lot of productivity and have a lot of success. Dan Cody didn't have a lot of moves. Dan Cody was a speed rush guy. He'd get wide, he'd get up the field, and he developed as he went on a pretty good little inside counter. He really had one good move, and he made a lot of plays, and he's one of the best defensive ends that ever played. Tommy Harris had about 10 moves, okay? But Tommy Harris might have been the best pure pass rusher inside that I've ever seen to this day. Everybody isn't built that way, but you can still have a lot of success without having this abundantly massive tool chest that you have to constantly go dig from.
Yeah.
That's a lot on D-line. Sorry, I'm sure.
Look,
That's good
boring
stuff, though,
your,
man.
boring
Yeah,
your
no,
listeners.
I think it was a tremendous point.